War has always scarred humanity, but some events go beyond the battlefield. Crimes so systematic, so cruel, that they remain carved into our collective memory. These are not just battles. They are massacres, genocides, and acts of calculated terror against the innocent. This video will take you across a century of human brutality, from Nazi Germany to Rwanda, from Tripolitsa to Srebrenica. Some crimes were hidden, some denied, and others prosecuted, but all share one thing in common. They reveal how far humanity can fall when hate and power collide. The Srebrenica massacre. Srebrenica was supposed to be safe. Declared a UN-protected zone, it became the last refuge for Bosniak Muslims during the Bosnian War. But in July 1995, Bosnian Serb forces captured the enclave. More than 8,000 men and boys were executed over several days. Bodies were dumped into mass graves, later dug up and scattered to hide the evidence. The massacre was ruled genocide, the worst atrocity in Europe since the Holocaust. They told us we would be safe. Then they separated the men. I never saw my father or brothers again. Srebrenica survivor. The Cambodian genocide, 1975 to 1979. When the Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge took power in Cambodia, they sought to erase modern society. Cities were emptied, schools and religion abolished, and intellectuals executed. Khmer Rouge dreamed of creating an agriculture-based communist paradise. Instead, they created a hell. People worked endless hours in the fields, starved, or were executed in secret prisons like Tuol Sleng. Nearly 2 million people died. It was so bad that life expectancy in Cambodia dropped to 11 years in 1976. The killing fields remained silent witnesses, pits filled with skulls and bones. The Holodomor, 1932 to 1933. The Holodomor, which means death by hunger in Ukrainian, was a man-made famine that devastated Soviet Ukraine between 1932 and 1933. It occurred under the leadership of Joseph Stalin when the Soviet Union was enforcing a policy of rapid collectivization of agriculture. Independent farmers were forced to surrender their land and livestock to collective farms. When resistance arose, the Soviet state responded with brutal force. Grain quotas were set impossibly high, and what little harvest peasants had was often confiscated. Villages that failed to meet quotas were blacklisted, cut off from trade, and stripped of food supplies. Laws even criminalized the gathering of leftover grain from fields, with severe penalties for those caught. As a result, millions of Ukrainians starved to death. Entire families perished, and stories spread of desperate survival, including reports of cannibalism. Estimates of the death toll range from 3 million to as many as 7 million people. The Holocaust, 1941 to 1945.
I've been here 8 days, and never in my life have I seen such damnable ghastliness. This morning we buried over 5,000 bodies. We don't know who they are. Behind me you can see a pit which will contain another 5,000.
The Holocaust was not a sudden explosion of violence. It was built step by step. In the 1930s, Jews in Germany were stripped of rights, banned from professions, and forced into ghettos. The Nazi regime normalized hatred before moving to extermination. By 1941, Hitler's final solution was in motion. Camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor became industrial centers of death. People were deported by train, packed into cattle cars, families torn apart. Those who survived the journey were often sent directly to gas chambers. 6 million Jews and millions of others were murdered. Liberating soldiers described the camps as hell on earth. At Nuremberg, Nazi leaders were tried, and the Holocaust became the defining case of genocide in modern law. But for survivors, the scars never healed. The Nanjing Massacre, 1937. In December 1937, Japanese forces captured Nanjing, then China's capital. What followed became known as the Rape of Nanking. For 6 weeks, soldiers carried out executions and mass rapes on an unimaginable scale. Between 200,000 and 300,000 civilians and prisoners of war were slaughtered. Up to 80,000 women were raped, from teenagers to grandmothers. Foreign witnesses created a small safety zone, but could not stop the killings. The massacre became a symbol of unchecked wartime brutality, still a point of tension in Chinese-Japanese relations today. Rwandan Genocide, 1994. In April 1994, Rwanda collapsed into hell. Years of ethnic tension between Hutu and Tutsi exploded after the president's plane was shot down. Within hours, extremist militias began massacring Tutsi civilians and moderate Hutu. Neighbors turned on neighbors. Entire families were hunted down with machetes. In just 100 days, over 800,000 people were killed. The world watched, but did not act. The United Nations had troops on the ground, but they were forbidden to intervene. Only when the Tutsi-led Rwandan Patriotic Front captured Kigali did the killing end. Justice came slowly, through international tribunals and Rwanda's community-based Gacaca courts. Tripolitsa Massacre, 1821. In the autumn of 1821, during the Greek War of Independence, the city of Tripolitsa, located in the heart of the Peloponnese, fell to Greek revolutionary forces. What followed was one of the most tragic episodes of the conflict. On October 5, 1821, after a prolonged siege, Greek forces under Theodorus Kolokotronis captured the city. The aftermath was devastating for the city's Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. Estimates suggest that between 10,000 and 20,000 civilians were killed in the ensuing massacre. Many were slaughtered in the streets, while others were taken prisoner and executed. Remembering these events is not about reopening old wounds, but about honoring the victims and learning from the past. Each atrocity carries lessons about the dangers of dehumanization, about the cost of silence, and about the responsibility of humanity to prevent such crimes from ever happening again. If we choose to forget, history has a way of repeating itself. If we choose to remember, we carry forward the memory of those who suffered, so that their voices are not lost. Thank you for watching, and may we all strive toward a world where such tragedies are no longer possible.